The University of New South Wales defines meta as a generally agreed upon strategy by the community. They go on to say, said strategy is considered to be the most optimal way to win / has the best performance at a specific task. Some people have defined meta as an acronym meaning most effective tactics possible. Today, we are going to talk a bit about meta. This video will look at meta through the perspective of Overwatch 2, but the things I say here are typically true of any ranked game's meta, so feel free to draw comparisons to the game you play. And alongside this, there will be a few notes where we touch on aspects of meta that apply to other competitive games, but not Overwatch, primarily based on the game's format of character choice. Recently, the new character Lifeweaver was released, and I've been having an absolute blast with him. I think he is one of the most fun characters in the game easily, but playing him over the last few days, I've gotten a good bit of flame, BM, or in layman's terms, needless hostility, just for playing as him. And this hostility has not even been based on how well he synergizes with our other teammates, how well he counters or is countered by the enemy picks, or even by the map choice. The large majority of it has been based solely on the perception that he is underpowered. So, that got me thinking about the power level of Overwatch heroes, and meta in general. I have, for a long time now, wanted to do a ton of math on the meta of Overwatch and make a video talking about my findings, but the idea has mostly always fallen flat because the scope of this video feels boring? If all I was to do was talk about the meta of Overwatch, then we'd just have a relic about one patch of the game where I told you the exact meta of the game, and it would be interesting, but pretty pointless, as the meta would shift almost instantly. Even while typing out this script, I am nervous that such a thing will happen before this video is finished. This is part of why I'm saving the actual math till the end of the production of this video, or at least near the end. Yeah, right. The gap created by the longevity of this information, then, was filled when I started playing Lifeweaver. Instead of just showing you the meta, we will talk about other factors as well, from how I determine the meta, to why meta is relevant, as well as how relevant it is. Now, all of this fancy talk is sounding boring to me, so why don't we just get into the actual logic behind this? In order to actually truly understand a game's meta, you need to understand first what is being rated for the criteria of said meta, as well as how these factors are chosen and manipulated. In other words, what choices make up the meta, and how are they chosen? For Overwatch, as well as most games, the meta is normally viewed from the choice of heroes. While strategies often revolve around the hero choices of the entire team as a whole, while playing Overwatch, you only get to choose your own hero, thank God. If this is a bad thing to you, you are clinically insane. Back to what I was saying, for Overwatch, I would like to look at meta through the lens of the power level of each hero individually. If you are wondering why I am doing it this way, even after I said that these such strategies are normally based on hero picks of the entire team, we need to actually think about the player's experience. Like I said, you only get to choose your hero, much to your 0 and 5 Hanzo's dismay, so focusing solely on the power level of each hero individually will be how we look at things. This is a bit complicated still, however, because of how Overwatch handles hero picks. In games like MOBAs, such as League of Legends, your legend choice happens at the beginning, and you are stuck with the consequences of this decision for the rest of the game, for better or worse. Honestly, actually, it feels like most games have this framework. For games like this, determining meta is actually much easier, as we can solely look at pick rate and win rate, as well as ban rate, something that should absolutely be factored in as well if the game features it. I know some people disagree on this, but I think to anyone with a shred of logic, it should be obvious that pick rate in a vacuum is meaningless without win rate, and win rate is meaningless in a vacuum without pick rate. As an example, who cares if Hero A has a 100% win rate if he has been in one game over the course of 10,000 games? He probably won solely because either the person who was playing him is an expert, or because the enemy team was caught off guard by such an unorthodox character. At the same time, who cares if Hero B has a 100% pick rate if they have a 0% win rate? Sure, everyone seems to think they're the best choice, but clearly they are horrible. These are some pretty drastically extreme examples, but this logic can still be soundly applied to more realistic scenarios. Heroes with high win rates but low pick rates are unorthodox and specialists, unrealistically boosting win rate of the hero in the data, while heroes with high pick rates but low win rates must mean the meta is in a period of shift where people are still under the impression that the hero is good when they no longer are, or that something about the hero appeals to most players, but they are wrong to feel this way because their reasoning is flawed. So for most games, then, we can just multiply pick rate by win rate, as well as factoring ban rate if the game has it, and get a great look at the meta. This, however, still leaves one flaw: level of play. While talking about low-level play is fun, it should be obvious that people who are not good at the game do not have any idea what they're talking about. I know you may feel offended by this statement, but if you want to level with me a bit, try to think back to all the information about the game you have heard from randoms in your ranked matches. Honestly think about it. If you haven't come around yet, you must not join voice or read chat. Congrats! You play the game in a vacuum and therefore probably actually are able to enjoy the game. Too bad you probably don't win often, but honestly, given what you are here for, I'd say that doesn't matter too much because you're just vibing. Unless you, despite not joining voice or even reading what your teammates say, still type to them. In which case you are the most degenerate kind of Overwatch player. Genuinely, screw you. Again, back to what I was saying, it really doesn't matter what low-level players are playing or winning on because they don't understand the game enough to actually understand what strategy is most effective, or have the skills to make use of the characters enough that they can determine which work the best. If you don't believe me, please remember that I have the aim of a little rat in a wheelchair. If I am able to get top 500 multiple times over the years, you should be able to get at least GM if you understand what makes heroes more useful than others. To explain this in a less condescending way, realistically, if I were to make a meta list, I might prefer to use AI endlessly playing the game against 9 other copies of itself over and over until it essentially perfected the game. This may be the most sound way to do things, as it would show the actual potential of each hero, which is what we are trying to look at with meta. The only argument against this that I have is that we are looking for the highest potential each hero has being used by a human. So even if someone was as good at the game as humanly possible, they still wouldn't be capable of the things the AI would. Luckily for us, as humans, we have the closest thing to humans who are perfect at the game: professionals. Obviously, none of them are truly perfect at the game, but they are the highest level of play there is, so we will be using them for all data. But why not use top 500 players for your data instead of pros? Pros are on teams, which is unrealistic to the actual way the game is played and ranked. I hear you sputter. Well, I can't. There's no data for T500, despite it being considered a legitimate rank by the devs, supposedly. What about Grandmaster then? Normally, people refer to this as Devil's Advocate, but because we are talking in terms of Overwatch, I will say Damage Advocate. This both helps me keep my rating from being too adult for YouTube's liking, as saying damage multiple times is completely fine, while saying other words multiple times might not fly so well, and at the same time, it's just completely realistic and honest to the integrity of damage players. Yay! But to address your argument, Damage Advocate, we are not concerned with the context of an unorganized team. We are here to look at meta, and meta is built on the framework of optimal strategies in the game, and the optimal strategies are based on optimal playing and optimal hero choice. While Grandmaster is nice and all, optimal comes from professional play. Alongside this, and maybe even more drastic of a problem, is the flawed data we have. I used to love using Overbuff and similar sites, but then the data got all corrupted. By what, you ask? Private profiles. Now there is no reliable way to actually gauge data, as we can only see data from open profiles, to my knowledge. And if this is true, then this data is beyond meaningless, because it is a skewed view of the actual full picture. Why would I poll people who live on the west side of town on which side of town has better people? No matter what they say, whether proud or self-degrading, it's all misinfo because I only polled them on such a polarizing topic. Again, this is a silly way to explain it, but it does the trick. If the polling from these stats was still not the entire player base, but random, it would still be usable. But the fact that it is solely based on player choice to hide their profile or not, means that the data is essentially tainted by a factor that can actually impact it. Perhaps there is a correlation between hiding your profile and one-tricking. We will never know because we only have half the data. That's it. You could argue against all this, and I encourage you to do so, but this is the line of logic we are using. I'll address Damage Advocate's viewpoint more near the end of the video, don't worry. Finally, we have the dilemma of pick rate. There is no pick rate in Overwatch, as you can at any time swap your hero, unless you are trying to swap to a hero your teammate is already on, or trying to swap to a hero that isn't in your role, or the Fun Police is still stealing your character. While you may think that we could just swap out pick rate for play rate, I think that would be too hasty. Remember, while we are looking for the usefulness of heroes at the highest level of play in order to determine their power, I am more concerned with knowing power for the sake of arguments about the hero power like we mentioned earlier. While you could say that Symmetra's usefulness is above 0, as the pros always pick her for about 3 seconds at the beginning of matches in order to use the teleporter, I don't think this argument will hold up when trying to determine if Symmetra is a good pick on a certain map, or against a certain hero. I'd rather look at things through the lens of how things may go for someone playing a hero as if it was their main, or even a one-trick for this player. It is because of this complication that I chose to torture myself. Welcome to my personal hell. In order to determine pick rate, I went through each individual professional match played on this current patch, and I looked at what heroes were being played the most on each point of each map, per each individual match. In order to preemptively skip the process of multiplying pick rate by win rate, I only paid attention to the winning team. Yes, this means I skipped ahead, watched who won, and then rewatched the match. None of it was fun, it was incredibly tedious. For each point of each map, I would determine which heroes were played the most and write down 5 names, as there are 5 players. Yes, while this was sometimes easy, other times it meant I'd have to calculate down to the second which character was played for longer. And yes, sometimes it was really, really close, down to mere second differences. This was rare, however, because pros don't actually swap that often, something I think ranked players should think about a bit. Maybe swapping isn't always the answer, and you shouldn't tell your teammate to kill himself for not swapping, but I digress. I would then, at the end of the map, assign 5 points total. 2 points for damage heroes, 2 points for support, and 1 for tank, as this is how many of each role's players there are per team. If, for example, there are 2 damage heroes who had the most points used very clearly, I will assign them both 1 point each. However, if the play rates were the same for more than 2 heroes, points are divided evenly. Some games, heroes get 0.5 or even 0.25 points. After doing this for literally every professional match so far this patch, I think I have a pretty accurate sample size for what the current meta is. I wanted to put all this data into a typical tier list, however, rather than just showing you a mass of jumbled numbers and hoping you can understand how to compare each number. The fact that there are different numbers of possible heroes in each role, and even different numbers of players per role, means that these numbers are sometimes really hard to quantify at a glance. So I'm going to make what is essentially a perfect tier list based on these factors. I also get to choose tiers myself. I want to do 2 things with this. For starters, I want the tier list divisions to be based on actual percentages based on some logical framework that is consistent. So there is no better framework for this than the literal school system many of us grew up with. When I tell you that you did something worthy of an A, you know you did great because you probably grew up with similar feedback. I personally hate tier lists where the average is A. A is supposed to be great. Our average will be C, as this is the intended average for school grades. To determine the distance between tiers, we will again use this framework. If we assume the average hero has gotten a 75% on their assignment of being a good little hero, and then B is 85%, while D is 65%, and so on, all we have to do is a little multiplication to take our raw data and turn it into rated data based on how well they compared to the average of other heroes in their role. Without this, there is basically no way to compare heroes between roles, but now you pretty accurately can, at least within the context of how they compare to their peers, comparatively. Yes, I said that right, and yes, it is as complicated as it sounds. Kinda. In a way, it's all very simple, but I'm doing the confusing part so you can enjoy the results with me. Because if I don't, who will? Nobody. Nobody else is this crazy, sadly. Please be crazy with me. I love stats and have crippling OCD. Oh, and another note, we are obviously including S tier. I mean, every tier list does that, and we sure as hell need the space. If A and F are as far from C as they normally are when grading, then S needs a counterpart, and I think Z fits nicely as its antithesis. Also, tier lists often feature SS, and we, again, definitely need the space given how unbalanced Overwatch is. So we will be featuring SS, ZZ, and so many more duplicates of these letters. For sanity's sake, we will refer to SS as S2 and so on. So, instead of SSSS, you will see S4. Neat, huh? Okay, that's it. I think I've explained it all thoroughly. Now I can actually go and do all that math. What a nightmare. Good luck future me voicing this, thanks. And good luck future me uploading it. And hello viewers. Each of these versions of me throughout time begs you, please like and subscribe. I want to die. Please, I'm begging you. Make number go up or I'll cry. I'm literally giving you cheat codes. The only objectively correct. Yes, I did the math tier list. Like, please.
Okay, originally I went over this tier list with my cat Lucas, but the recording sucked. And it was way too long, so we're just gonna do this, a little quicker. Nobody really wants this part to be drawn out. Is this your favorite part? Do you want me to analyze it? I did so much math to get this. I had to watch 108 Overwatch matches and meticulously time how long people played heroes. Oh, but that's okay. This is the fun part. We get the results here. So, two things I want to address really quick. Starting at Z6. Remember, that means ZZZZZZ. And then the numbers, you don't really have to pay attention to. That was just replacing heroes using the formula. It's just like a scoring system, basically. The thing that matters is the tiers. That's just there if you wanted to get a sense for why they were placed there. That's a score they got based on win rate times pick rate. Okay, so starting off in Z5 minus or Z6 plus, because it's right between Z5 and Z6, we have the bottom of the barrel, Bastion, Junkrat, and Roadhog. Yep, these three are nigh unusable apparently, very sad. Then we have Sim, Pharah, Torb, Wrecking Ball Orisa, Doomfist Mercy, and Lifeweaver Moira. Yep, so there you have it. Lifeweaver, not the worst character in the game, not even tied for it, and also not the worst healer. Okay, worst healer, but tied for worst healer. Oh, Lucas is coming over. Hello, Lucas. You want to see the tier list? He likes math also, I guess. Then in Z4, yeah, we're still in Z. The numbers, yeah, the numbers are fun. Math-based tier list that I've ordered this way, based on this goal system. It's a little spread out, but you'll see that. We've got, what do you call it? Kree Soldier, Zarya and Zen in Z4. What do you call it? Whether or not Zen is healthy for the game, he's actually garbage, it turns out. That's what this is. Balance. This is about balance. Remember that. It's not about design. Just because a character is bad for the game doesn't mean that they're really good. Because Widowmaker's in Z2. And then we got a Z3, Reaper, and Echo. These are in no order, by the way. If they're in the same tier, they're just as good as each other. Widow's in Z2, Ryan in Z. In D, we have... Lucas is tearing something up. In D, we have Sojourn, Genji,
Junker Queen Kiriko. That is actually by coincidence. They were not always played together. I'm surprised they're in the same tier. You know anything about Overwatch Professional, you'll think that's funny also. And we have Ashe Sig, the two most balanced heroes apparently. And Mei and Bap and B, this is where we start to get into the good characters. S3, we have Ramatra, Diva, and Lucio tearing it up out there. Gotta go all the way to S5 to get to Hanzo. We're really in big boy territory up here. Brig at S8, that shield change, the rally changes, turning out to be really good for her. Everybody was so scared of the Moira fade during ult changes, but that did absolutely nothing. She's still bottom of the barrel. But the Brig one really helped her, although people saying that it would make her broken, still a little delusional because we have Ana at S10. Ana is unholy good. The Sleep Dart nerf, who needs it? But we have 3 characters tearing it up better than Ana. All the way up at S18, we have Sombra. Usable so many comps, so good, but she is not even second best. Our second best hero I thought would be first, Winston. Winston is unholy good. But there is one more character that puts him to shame even apparently, and that's our girl Tracer with a whopping tier. Yes, that is real. That is what the math said. Tracer is that good. Oh. Good Lucas. Oh, there you have it. The definitive math-based tier list. You're welcome. Why? Oh, the Overwatch update just dropped. So we gotta fix things. This is no longer the way things are balanced now, but it's okay because I know exactly what to do. Welcome to my little segment talking about the Season 4 Mid Madness patch, whatever the heck, new meta. I'm going to tell you what the new what the new tier list is gonna look like. Season 4 halfway point tier list. You ready for this? Is it the halfway point? Okay, don't worry. Watch this. What the hell? Why would they do that? Chakra. Let's go. Jeez. Okay. Go. What? But why? There you have it. The worst character in the game. From just barely usable to completely unusable. You're an improved tier list. And so, I give you the perfect tier list. But that's not right. You are using numbers from a competitive level of play where teams are more coordinated and have time to plan. There's no way we can replicate what they do in a ranked match. Precisely. Huh? Ah, my friend, now you finally see. I've been on your side all along. What? You were never Damage Advocate. Or should I say, I have been Damage Advocate all along. Yes, the voice, but also me. I hold the positions I've been pretending to use as counterpoints all along. I am a damage player after all. So yes, you or me, we are completely right. The level of play we see at professional level is something beyond what we can typically replicate as little peons in our small world of ranked games. It's a bit silly to think that what makes Lucio powerful in a coordinated 5-man group professionally playing the game together as a unit will also make him just as powerful within our ragtag team of randoms thrown together by the matchmaking system. But then what is there to glean from all this? That is where this gets really interesting. While the bulk of this video was dedicated to showing you how to truly assess the meta, alongside showing you what the current meta is, my conclusion has a different goal. Stop caring about the meta and the power of hero picks. Or, at the very least, stop policing your teammates' hero picks while hiding behind the argument that they aren't playing the meta. Meta does not matter in your silly little world. Perhaps you think we should instead look at stats of high-level players. First off, like we mentioned before, things get too muddy when trying to assess Overwatch's ranked stats, a problem other games may or may not have, due to private profiles ruining win rates and pick rates for sites like Overbuff. But I'd argue that even if it wasn't so muddy, none of that matters. Even if we could point to stats of heroes under overperforming at the highest rank, that doesn't change the fact that in the end, the actual power of a hero is based on their highest potential in the right hands, and those hands are the professionals in a professional setting. If we want to be more relative to our situation, the ranked game, you could be more realistic and even make tier lists for each individual rank. Oh, this tank is good in gold, but in diamond they're not great because blah blah blah. But when you start to look at things from this lens, you are overlooking something obvious: individual players. So while you can sit atop your pedestal of logic on the opposing side to the true meta, I'll encourage you to take this logical route all the way down. Why stop here at recognizing that heroes may be better or worse at different ranks? How do these massive stats really impact your match when you could be telling your Mercy to swap to a hero you think performs better at this rank, when you should recognize that the only person in your lobby who truly knows her skills is the Mercy herself? So while your little train of logic may have led you to acknowledging that in Masters, Ana is typically the best support pick, have you considered that you should also acknowledge your Mercy probably knows what heroes she is good at better than you do? So much so that the perceived Masters meta impacts her contribution to the team much less than her own knowledge, skill, and muscle memory with each individual support? Or, to say it a bit more plainly, you don't know what your teammates are good at, and your perceived meta does not affect them nearly as much as their own hero pool. I mean, you can complain all you want that they are on the wrong hero, but they won enough to get into the same game as you. The only thing really preventing them from winning on said hero compared to their other games is how willing and able you are to play alongside that hero. Sure, maybe they're hard stuck, but you are too if you can't work around a simple hero pick. In the end, there are only two ways of looking at things. Either you accept the true meta, and for whatever reason decide to live by it, knowing what heroes truly are the best or worst at the current moment, or you accept that the meta does not really impact your game, and you play better. Or, if it's truly unwinnable, go again. And don't try to give me that whole, "Oh, but I'm in the highest level of play," sad face. My rank is where the ranked meta really starts to You fuckers let me into T500 on Sim again. You can't get away with that and then tell me there's any real meta in ranked. That's cap.